Hi, Sunny here. Today we're going to talk about another interval. We talked about octave, which is very important. We also talked about perfect fourth, extremely important. And now we're going to talk about perfect fifth. The reason why we talk about octave, perfect fourth, and perfect fifth first, because those three are very close and very tight and related to each other. So let's go over it. Perfect fourth basically is the fourth note from the root note, and it's always on the guitar. It's always the note under the root note, except G and B string. If you're, we talked about this in the last lesson, that if you're playing on the G string, instead of the note directly under it, you'll be under it and one fret over on the B string. So for example, if you play the B perfect fourth, you play the fourth fret of your G string. Instead of playing the fourth fret of your B, you'll play the fifth fret of your B. That's a perfect fourth on the G and B string. Everything else is always just exactly the note right under it. So fifth fret, D and G, seventh fret, and so forth. Now on perfect fifth basically is the note after perfect fourth, a whole tone after the perfect fourth. So what you do is that in order to find the fifth note, perfect fifth, you'll go down, you'll find a perfect fourth, which is the note under it, the root note, and you move it 2 frets over, and you have your perfect fifth. For example, on your C note on the 3rd fret of your A string, if you play the 3rd fret of your D below it, that's a perfect fourth together. Now if you take that note, you move 2 frets over on the D string, which is the 5th fret of your D string. So that's the perfect fifth. And yes, and that is the power chord. Perfect fifth is basically the power chord. So the power chord is the same shape. So if you start from the G note on the 3rd fret of E, you play this shape. It's a G power chord, just those 2 notes. With your 5th fret of your A, you move it down. If you play the C, the 3rd fret of A, and you play the 5th fret of your D, that's your power chord. A C power chord on the A string. Same thing if you move down. Let's try it over here. Let's do the 5th fret of your D, which is a G note. A perfect fifth of that would be the 7th fret of your G. So that's a power chord as well. Now G and B strings are a little different, similar to what we talked about before. You have to visualize that the B and the E string is shift 1 fret to your right than the other string. So in order to play the power chord on the G and B string, instead of playing 2 notes to the right of the perfect fourth, you'll play 3 notes to the right of the perfect fourth. So for example, in order to play, if you play the 2nd fret of your G, you have to play the 5th fret of your B string. That's your power chord. You got to use your pinky. So if your perfect fourth would be your 3rd fret of your B, and the 2nd fret of your G, and that's basically a D chord, by the way. Now if you move 2 fret over from the 3rd fret on the B string, you have your 5th fret of your B string, so that's a power chord. On a B and E string, same thing. It's just same thing as the other string, just 2 notes over. So if you want to play the E note, the 5th fret on the B string, the perfect fifth will be the 7th fret of your E string. So that's a power chord on the high 2 strings. Alright. So you know, power chords very useful, like Holy Diver, you know. all that is power chord. You know, Iron Man's power chord. Try to think of an example that you can use a power chord on a G and B string, because it's a little bit different, like we just said. A good example is Eyes, Queen's Right, Eyes of a Stranger. Alright, so you're playing this kind of shape here. Basically, on the 9th fret, and you play the 9th fret of your D and G string, and then 12th fret of your B. You play the open E string first, 9th fret of your D, and 12th fret of your B. So that's another power chord of G and B string. Basically, it's 5th fret of your G and 8th fret of your B. And you can do this one as well. Just move it up. So that is perfect fifth. Now we put it all together. That is a very tight relationship between the three: octave, perfect fourth, and perfect fifth. So let's take a power chord example at the C at the third position. So 3rd fret of your A string and 5th fret of your D and G. Let's play that first. So that's basically a 3 notes power chord. Alright, so it's very common to play a 3 notes power chord like that. Okay, now you can see the relationship here. 3rd fret is your root note on the A string. The 5th fret of your D string, that's a perfect fifth. Now if you notice, the 5th fret of your G is a perfect fourth of the 5th fret of your D string. It's also octave. The 5th fret on the G string is an octave of your C, which is the root note. So you basically playing the C note, play a C note higher at the 5th fret of your G, and we add a perfect fifth to it at the G or the D string. But you can notice that again it's the perfect fourth as well between on the 5th fret of your D and G. And this is why if you play the perfect fifth, perfect fourth, I'm sorry, anywhere, the second note is actually the root note. So if you take the second note, which is a C on the 5th fret of your G string, octave lower would be a C on the 3rd fret of your A string. So the bass, if you play in the bass guitar, you can play the C note, the lower register, and then the guitar can play the just the perfect fourth interval on the 5th fret. So you play those 2 notes while the bass going like this, and obviously you can play some rhythm like this. So that's a relationship between octave, perfect fourth, and perfect fifth. And another thing I want to mention too is that any chord progression, the backbone of chord progression is the 1st, 4th, and 5th chord, and that's developed from that. And so if you play the G power chord, 3rd fret of your G, notice that the 4th note, the perfect fourth, is a C note right below it, 3rd fret on the A string, and the perfect fifth is the D note, which is the 5th fret of your A string. So you have G, C, D. Alright, basically you can play those 3 chords. You play open G. If you know your open chords, we'll cover that later. open G, open C, open D. So that's 1, 4, 5 in Roman numeral numbers. 1, 4, 5 chord progression, and that's basically in every song you always found. If you found a C chord, I guarantee you will find a F and a G. So yes, 1, 4, 5 is very important in chord progression. If you know those 3 chords, 12-bar blues uses it. A lot of 3-chord songs, country songs, rock, a lot of that stuff, you'll find a backbone of the chord structure is a 1, 4, 5. So if you play a key of G, you have a G chord, a root note, C, which is a 4th chord, and D is a 5th chord. Play the key of A, A, and the perfect 4th of A is what? D, the note right below it, and then perfect 5th would be the E, which is 7th fret of A. So we got A, D, and E. That's 1, 4, 5. So if you play chords, 1, A chord, D is 4th chord, E major is a 5th chord. You can write songs with those 3 chords. You can write many songs. So hopefully that helps to understand perfect 5th and the relationship between that and perfect 4th and octave and the chord progression of 1, 4, 5. Thanks for watching.